me of a very personal story. I was at a major event, and it was a 3-day event. And the title of it was Landmark. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. If you haven't, look it up. Amazing, amazing opportunity to transform your mind and your world. So anyway, the guy started out. Our instructor started out by telling a story. He said when he was 4 years old, his mom and dad got a divorce. That's what happened. Now, in this segment, if you've got paper, I want you to draw 2 circles. I want you to draw 1 circle, and I want you to put in that circle, that's what happened. That's what happened, because that's life. And in the second circle, I want you to put, this is my interpretation. My interpretation. This is what happened, my interpretation. This is what happened, my interpretation. And what he did is he entwined the circles. So I want you to make 1 circle and then put the other circle right in the middle of the circle. Because what happens is we entwine these 2. So he said at 4 years old, his mom and dad got a divorce. That's what happened, okay? And then as his mom packed her stuff, as his mom walked out the door, his interpretation was she didn't love him. And he got offended. He was 4 years old and he got offended. You see, it doesn't age is insignificant when it comes to getting offended. Like babies, you know, babies cry for it, adults die for it, attention. That's a diamond. Babies cry for it, adults die for it, attention. We all gotta have attention, so we gotta make sure we're giving people the right attention, and that's a diamond. So here's the gold nugget. This is what happened. This was his interpretation. So she walked out, she parted, she walked out. His interpretation was she didn't love him. His whole life, his mother, his whole life called him, tried to have a relationship with him. He shunned her off. Every time he called, he was busy. When he became an adult, he was always too busy for his mother. Eventually one night he was drunk. He was 27 years old and he was drunk. His mom called and he was rude to her. What do you want? Why are you calling me? He got rude and nasty to her. And she said, why are you so mean to me? His name was Lil David. He said, Lil David, why are you so mean to me, Little David? What was his name? Lil David. Lil David. So she said, Lil David, why you call me? And he's like, don't you call me Lil David, I'm grown now. She's like, okay, baby. But Lil David had an issue with his mama. And so that night they started talking and she said, why have you been so mean to me? I'm always calling your whole life, trying to be a part of life. And he yelled at her, David yelled at her, because you don't love me. You abandoned me. And I've had abandonment issues and relationship issues my whole life because you walked out on me and you didn't care about me. And his mother said, baby, David, Lil David. He said, don't call me Lil David. She said, okay, David, baby, do you want the truth? He said, I want the truth. And it reminded me of a few good men. You can't handle the truth. So that's your diamond today. Can you handle the truth? So she told him, she said, you know, you're a lot like your dad. Your dad was very successful. You're very successful. Your dad was an alcoholic. And unfortunately, son, David, it appears that you're an alcoholic too. You gotta take care of yourself, son. And she, don't tell me what to do, mama. Don't you tell me what to do. You don't love me. So she said, okay, well, let me tell you what happened. Can I tell you what happened, David? And he said, yes. And so she said, well, when I was a baby, when you were a baby, your dad used to beat me. He was abusive. He was rude. He would beat me. He was so cruel to me all the time. And so eventually I couldn't handle it. And she said back then in the 50s and the 40s and the 60s, she said all I was a housewife and I didn't know how to take care of myself. And so he threatened me and I was going to leave because I couldn't take it anymore. And then he said, if you take my sons, that I'll kill you. I'll take my sons to Argentina and you'll never see them again. So she said, I didn't know what to do and I left. So at that moment, she said to him, David, I've loved you your whole life and I've been trying to be a part of your life. They both started crying. He didn't realize all this time that his dad was the abuser and had been beating her. And that's why she left, not because she didn't love him and because she abandoned him, The moral of that story is that unless you check the motives and unless you dig into the story, you'll always have the propensity and the intensity and the opportunity to draw your own interpretation. What happened was, yes, she left, but his interpretation was she didn't love him, which was untrue. So refuse to get offended. He said he lost 25 years, 24, 23 years of his mom's life because he got offended. Listen, if you're going to be successful, and you're going to be successful, if you're going to shatter through your glass ceiling, reach in the lion's mouth, and take what belongs to you, you're going to have to refuse to be offended. You have to make sure you protect your relationships. I would not be in a relationship with Mansa Jamil for 22 years if we didn't protect this relationship. You got to protect your relationships. You got to protect your prospects. You got to protect your goals. You got to protect your ambition. You got to protect your dreams. You got to remember, like Warren Buffett said, and there was some question in the last show, honesty is a very expensive gift. Don't expect it from cheap people. Honesty is a very expensive gift. It takes big people to be honest. It takes big people to say, what did you mean by that? My feelings were hurt. Give people an opportunity to explain themselves, talk things over, don't get offended, because what happens is when you get offended, you create a domino effect. You end up saying something, doing something, offending someone that damages your entire success, your entire relationship, only to find out days, weeks, months later that you were wrong, that you had the wrong interpretation. So remember, think the best, believe the best, do your best, be your best, and you'll always get the best. Think the best, believe the best, do your best, be your best, and you'll always receive the best. Think the best, believe the best, do your best, be your best, and you'll always receive your best. All of that reminds me of the mindset of Nelson Mandela, Madiba, when he was in prison. He was interviewed after 20 years. And I love this story, and I re-reference it because it's so dear to my heart. Raising 4 kids on my own, I've always had an opportunity to be offended with their parent because I felt like you could have did more. Single kids that grow up without their dad usually have the opportunity to be offended because their dad wasn't in their life or their mother wasn't in their life. But sometimes we don't understand the circumstances that projected all of that, made that happen. You got to remember that in your life, to be the best, to keep authenticity and sincerity in your voice, you got to think the best, believe the best, be the best, do the best, and you'll receive the best. You've got to remember that you are invincible, unstoppable, too powerful to be defeated, too powerful to be overcome. You're incapable of being conquered, defeated, or subdued. You are more than a conqueror. You are a champion. You've got to dig down deep inside and you've got to trust God. Sometimes we just got to release on God. We got to lean on God because Proverbs 28 and 26 says, he that trusteth his own heart is a fool. What does that mean, Diamond? When you trust your own emotions, your own imagination, your own feelings, oftentimes you can be wrong. So you've got to question things. You can't believe your own interpretation about everything because they entwined in each other. This is what happened. This is your interpretation. Remember what they teach you in law school. And I was great in law school. What they teach you in law school is do your research. Don't ever just accept something at face value. Somebody says something, someone does something, and particularly those that are close in your circle. Do your research. Don't allow yourself to get all emotional, get offended, get angry. Next thing you know, you ain't telling nobody about the program. You're not moving forward. All of a sudden, you done hit a brick wall. You can't get over it. You can't go under it. You can't go around it because you're offended. So you got to remember to remain symbols of possibility. You got to think universal abundance and remember that you got to understand that you got to watch your thoughts, because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions. Watch your actions because they become your behavior. Watch your behavior because it becomes your character. Remember, think the best, believe the best, speak the best, be the best, do the best, and you'll receive the best. Watch your thoughts because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions. You know what? I'm so sick and tired of him, girl. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I'm so sick and tired of him. He getting on my nerves, girl. With his big old head, his big old forehead. I'm out of here. He gets on my nerves. I'm gone. Next thing you know, you're getting a divorce. You're out. You ain't coming home no more. You're having all kind of issues and challenges in your life because you've been thinking it and saying it. Once you start saying it, it becomes your actions. Watch your thoughts because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions. Watch your actions because they become your behavior. They become your character. And once you watch your character because it becomes your destiny. Once you start a pattern of behavior, it becomes your character. And that character will destroy you. So you've got to remember the $1 billion servant, Tyler Perry, said that he had to guard himself from being offended. And when you get a certain level of success, it starts to get in the way of your success because people start coming at you with a multiplicity of reasons and motives. So make sure that you think the best, believe the best, act the best, be your best, do the best, and you'll receive the best. Remember the 7 P's. The 7 P's. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. I found in business and in life, most people have a tendency of getting offended because they weren't prepared. And something went wrong that they didn't anticipate or they didn't plan for, and the opportunity, it presents itself to get offended. You have to remember that almost 90% of divorces, 95% of divorces happen because someone got offended. Most people are on drugs and alcohol because they're hurting and they got offended. Something happened in their life and it's an anchor. It's a negative anchor that keeps you in this vicious cycle of destruction. So remember that you critique every situation and do not let yourself get offended. Refuse to be offended. Refuse it. And that's why you have to make sure that you teach your mouth and your mind to think and say the right things. You have to remember Proverbs 17:22, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones. That's that offense when you get a broken spirit. Proverbs 17:22, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones. What do you mean, Diamond? A broken spirit gets offended. It starts breaking up your relationships. It starts destroying your friendships. It starts destroying the things around you. So you got to make sure that you're going to make it. You got the right stuff, baby. You're going to get this done. You can do this. Like Mary Kay, when her husband died at the kitchen table, 2 weeks before they were about to launch the business, she jumped up. They told her, "Don't you do it, Mary Kay." She said, "I got the courage to get this done. I'm going to do this." And they said, "Well, what about your husband dying?" She said, "That's his turn and I'm not going to get offended." You see, you've got to make sure that you refuse to get offended.